What's up guys? So there is still 8 weeks left of the Xena pass, and even though it's kind of unpopular topic right now because of the December boycott that many of the content creators are doing, I already bought her because I wanted her for live arena, and I have been liking her so far there. She's definitely much better than average snooker for live arena though. I mean, there is couple better ones like Rotos, Taras, Harima and Georgid, but outside of that she's probably the best snooker, or I would say pretty much on even play field with some of the other top snookers like Ragas that you see top players using. But of course it depends on your account and setup and so on. But today we're not gonna specifically get to the live arena part. I kind of did a couple live arena videos testing her out so that you can get a good understanding from there. But actually I wanted to try her in Hydra. I used her in Hydra last week and she was pretty good. That's probably not the first thing that people think about when you think about Xena, because both her A2 and A3, the defense ignore only scales from the amount of buffs that the enemy has, and most likely when you're doing Hydra, the enemy team doesn't have any buffs, or the Hydra heads don't have any buffs, because you're either using block buffs debuff on them, or they are continuously dying and you're killing them so fast that they're not able to put up those like mass amount of buffs, or it's a bit complicated for the Hydra heads to do buffs anyway, because basically there is Poison Cloud and a couple other ones, but they are not gonna have a mass amount of buffs unless they steal your buffs and spread them. But even though those effects don't really apply on Hydra, but she does have the passive that every time she uses an active skill, her attack gets increased by 10% up to 100%. And to clarify, this doesn't proc from the A1, it only procs from the A2 and A3. But Hydra battle takes a long time, and when you use these skills 10 times, then you're basically gonna get 100% increased attack. And that's gonna be a decent amount of damage, and we will see how relevant she is in practice. Now, of course, if you have the most insane account, then you're probably not gonna use her. On the higher levels, something like Acresia is good, and then if you're doing the lower levels, Tranda is definitely the best snooker right now. But maybe you only have one Tranda, or you don't have multiple top teams, she might be pretty good on, let's say, brutal stages and lower. And me personally, I'm not using her just for videos, she's actually in my main team. And since in raid changing your gear costs a lot of silver anyway, you could probably get away using her in the same build for Hydra and Arena, which is, by the way, exactly what I'm doing, almost, because I've been actually using Xena in my best snooker gear, but every time I do Hydra with Tranda, I put Tranda in the best gear and I put Xena in the second best gear, so it's not quite the same gear that I normally have on her. It's a little bit worse. My Tranda definitely has the better part of her gear, but if we quickly take a look at it, it's a normal nuke build. Of course I get the bonuses from Hydra, which are plentiful, but we can just ignore those. It's basic nuker build, around 200 speed, as high as you can get while having attack boots and focusing on damage. And it's in lethal and cruel. I could definitely build her a bit differently, specifically for Hydra, but I'm just gonna use my normal builds that are meant for arena. I mean, the reaction banner is not gonna do anything here, but that's what we're gonna go with. And of course, my Tranda is gonna do way more damage, but when Tranda gets eaten by the Hydra heads, she will hopefully be able to kill them pretty fast and also contribute a good amount of damage outside of that. I'm gonna use her on my hard Hydra team, because the higher levels on Hydra have very high defense, and that's why if you look at the Nightmare teams, for instance, okay, even some of the top people are even running Tranda on there, but you will see a lot of Acrisia on like Nightmare, and maybe even Brutal, but mostly on Nightmare. But then the lower level we go, you will start seeing Tranda. Yeah, this is the typical thing that I see, that on Nightmare people are gonna use Acrisia, on Brutal they're gonna use Cupidus or Taras, and then in hard they're gonna use Tranda teams, but you can do it on normal as well. We didn't have anybody hitting normal yet, but usually there's a few people that hit normal just to get good amount of points. But me personally, like most people, like you probably should, I'm gonna use my Tranda on the hard team, and I have different setups for Nightmare and Brutal, and I don't have three of the most insane Hydra teams. I'm actually lucky enough to have Acrisia, even though I wish I would have gotten some good PvP champion instead, but basically here is my teams. This is my Nightmare team, and this is Brutal, and this is hard. But if we quickly look at the hard team, this is kind of the team of the team. It's not just Xena gear using my PvP setup, but also Tranda is in similar vein in my normal PvP nuke build with Lethal and Cruel. Arbiter is in Swift Parry, she is built for PvP, the same exact build, I didn't change anything on her. Lydia, I think, is in some random perception gear. I probably could min-max her a bit and build her maybe with damage just for Hydra. But it's a very old build that I just use in general for everything. And then Even Kaimar, he's in 4-piece stone skin in a build that I use for PvP. In resistance, as you can see, he's 863 resistance. We definitely could get him a lot faster if we wanted to. So this is in no way optimal setup or anything close to it. These champions are not optimal, the builds are not optimal, but they are still very good. And even the Shamal is in pretty slow build. That's with him getting like 20 speed from Hydra bonus. He's in extremely slow build that I use in classic arena offense. But this is what I'm running, just my basic scuffed setup to give you some kind of practical idea how well Xena is gonna do. And yeah, that's about it. Let's get to the actual run. I will probably speed up the actual fights and not talk on top of this entire thing, because it's gonna take me probably 30 minutes to 1 hour to finish it. But anyway, let's see what happens. So yeah, that's what I got with my Hydra key. Nothing insane compared to those top accounts that can do billions or trillions. I'm just a pleb, but still, considering that Tranda did 150 million damage, which might seem a lot more than the 50 million that Xena did, but this is Tranda that we're talking about, who is clearly the best nuker on Hydra, especially at the low levels when the boss has very low defense, like on the hard version. And I am running Kaimar and everything that is often used to enable the Tranda. Of course I don't have a Gerb Tuck or something for block buffs, which was really hard for me in this rotation, and I don't have something like double Yumeko. But still, considering the Tranda damage, I think Xena damage was very impressive, and Tranda was also in a lot better gear than Xena, so I definitely could have bumped her damage up a little bit. And probably for most players, 220 million damage on hard Hydra is probably good enough for you in your clan. In my clan, it's probably not very good enough at all, and people are not gonna be happy about me doing a key like this, but I honestly can't do any more, so it is the best I can do. If I were to auto this, it probably wouldn't even be 100 million with some other teams, so I'm at least trying to manual and do something, but I know that it pales in comparison to these other teams. But anyway, that's it for the video, and hope you found it informative or useful, and maybe you will use Xena as well in Hydra, and that's it. See ya.